Welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here today because we're going to explore a fascinating mystery that affects literally every single interaction you have. You see, long before our ancestors had words, before they could even speak, they relied on a highly sophisticated multi-channel system to survive, to coordinate, and to thrive. We usually think of communication as starting with a spoken word, right? But today, we're going way back. We're going to uncover the deeply ingrained language you are still speaking right now, without even realizing it. Picture this high-stakes hypothetical for a second. How did early humans say, hey, there's a lion right behind you without making a single sound that would, attract the predator? When the absolute best tools you had were just your face and maybe a grunt, how on earth did you keep your group alive? Well, the truth is, we all still possess the ancient hardware that made this possible, and it's firing off signals every single day.
Section 1. The ancient hardware.
Okay, let's dive right into this. I actually want you to test this out right now, wherever you're sitting. Without moving your mouth, without making a peep, try to broadcast that you're annoyed. Now, try suspicious. Okay, now try deeply delighted. You can do it effortlessly, right? Entirely through your face and your posture? Well, the human face has exactly 43 muscles. That is more than almost any other animal on the planet. And the overwhelming majority of these muscles exist purely for emotional expression. They aren't just there to help you chew your food or breathe. Evolution basically built us a high-definition communication device out of meat and bone long before a single spoken word ever showed up. A psychologist named Paul Ekman actually spent decades mapping this hardware, and what he found was incredible. These basic expressions, they're biologically universal. Fear in a rural village in Papua New Guinea looks exactly like fear in downtown Tokyo. These involuntary microexpressions, which are just these tiny flickers of emotion lasting less than a fifth of a second, they're biological broadcasts. Think about it. If an early human could instantly broadcast danger across a whole camp just by widening their eyes, giving everyone else a massive survival advantage to react in half a second, natural selection was absolutely going to heavily favor that ancient hardware. Section 2, hands, sounds, and synchrony. So let's move beyond the face for a minute and look at the whole body. About 6 million years ago, the lineage that would eventually produce us, humans, split from the one that would produce chimpanzees. And when you look at chimpanzees today, they gesture deliberately with very clear intent. They'll wait for eye contact before begging for food or waving to play. So intentional gestures were already in play millions of years ago. But this brilliantly illustrates the leap our specific ancestors made. If you point at a toy for a dog, the dog just looks at your pointing finger. But a human infant, at around 9 months old, way before they can speak, they'll point to an object, wait for you to look at it, and then look right back at you to share the attention. They aren't just asking for the object, they're explicitly trying to share an experience with another mind. And this brings us to a really fascinating concept called the gestural origin theory of language. I love this quote, it captures it perfectly. The hands built the road, the mouth just learned to drive on it. There's actually a brilliant neurological reason for this. Broca's area, that's the region in our brain most associated with language production, is located in the exact same territory that controls fine hand and mouth movements. So language didn't just magically pop into our mouths. It likely piggybacked on a motor planning region that was already being used for complex hand gestures. But here's the catch. Gestures only work when you can actually see each other. What happened when our ancestors were moving through really dense forests, or it was pitch black and line of sight was completely broken? Well, sound filled the gap. Take vervet monkeys, for example. They use what are called functionally referential calls. They have one very specific call for an eagle, which sends the whole troop hiding in the bushes. A totally different call for a snake means stand up and scan the ground. And a third, entirely different call for leopards means climb the trees. This proves that sound was carrying highly specific real-world data way, way before words ever existed. And our immediate ancestors took this even further. There's this small bone in the throat called the hyoid bone, and it's absolutely crucial for vocal anatomy. Neanderthals possessed a hyoid bone that was nearly identical to ours, which means they physically had the capacity for complex vocalizations. But what's truly captivating here is that alongside these bones, we find evidence of them burying their dead, mixing pigments, and wearing eagle talons as ornaments. Their incredibly rich social behaviors suggest they were already navigating a deeply, deeply symbolic world. Now, let's look at how this builds into rhythm as a form of social glue. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar pointed out that physical grooming works great for one-on-one primate bonding, sure, but as human groups grew to around 150 people, we needed a scalable solution. We just didn't have time to groom everyone. So when we synchronize our movement by singing or drumming together, our oxytocin levels spike, our pain thresholds literally rise, and group cohesion improves measurably. Rhythm bonded our ancestors together long before they had the vocabulary to actually express their loyalty. Section 3. The hidden channels of smell. Now, we know that things like posture and the way we take up space dynamically establish hierarchy and dominance in a room, but let's pivot to something genuinely surprising and honestly almost entirely overlooked when we talk about human communication, our olfactory universe. Yep, our sense of smell. Now, what's really interesting about this is that humans are actually extraordinarily sensitive to chemical signals. We can quite literally smell fear. Studies show that the sweat of a genuinely terrified person triggers an automatic threat response in whoever smells it, completely bypassing our conscious processing. We can also smell stress, disease, and get this, even genetic compatibility. Evolution has been quietly handling mate selection and threat detection way below our conscious awareness for millions of years. Section 4, from stone tools to syntax. So if we had all of this, the microexpressions, the shared attention, referential calls, rhythm, and smell, how did we make the massive leap to actual spoken language? To understand that, we have to look at a fascinating proxy, ancient toolmaking. About 2.6 million years ago, early tools were just simple knapped stones, pretty basic. But right around 1.76 million years ago, the Chilean hand axe appears. And crafting this tool was not simple. It required holding a future shape in your mind, making decisions multiple steps ahead, and executing incredibly precise movements. It required hierarchical, sequential cognition. And guess what? That happens to be the exact same mental architecture required to construct grammar and syntax in a sentence. So the crucial point here is that language didn't just magically appear out of thin air. It wasn't this sudden, miraculous leap from total silence to Shakespeare. The neurological infrastructure was already being built by millions of years of social complexity and intricate toolmaking. Language merely joined an already rich, multi-channel communication system. Think of it less as a totally new invention and more like a massive software upgrade that was installed seamlessly onto our ancient hardware. And before that software upgrade, how exactly did we teach our young how to survive? Well, we use something called over-imitation. This is a uniquely human tendency to copy absolutely everything in a demonstrated action sequence, even the completely useless, unnecessary steps. We do this because we just assume the specific form carries vital hidden information. Through this kind of scaffolded physical demonstration, our ancestors managed to pass down life and death skills, things like which plants were medicine or how to read animal tracks, and they did it purely through physical mimicking over hundreds of thousands of years. Section 5. The language we still speak. Let's bring this epic evolutionary journey all the way back to the present day. Because I really want to fundamentally shift how you think about the interactions you have every single day of your life. We often call all of these ancient channels nonverbal communication, as if they're somehow secondary or, less important than our spoken words. But they aren't secondary at all. They are absolutely primary. Just think about it. When someone angrily crosses their arms, avoids all eye contact, and says, in a flat, monotone voice, "I'm fine," what do you actually believe? You trust the body every single time. Your ancient hardware immediately catches the mismatch and overwrites the newer, easily manipulated spoken words. You are running both systems simultaneously all the time. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. The next time you walk into a room and instantly sense a bad vibe, or you lock eyes with someone and you just know for a fact they are lying to you, are you really just guessing? Or is your 6 million-year-old hardware functioning absolutely perfectly? Every shrug, every subtle look, every deliberate silence you make is you fluently speaking a survival language so ancient it doesn't even have a name. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep paying close attention to what your ancient hardware is telling you.